Three, two, one. Let's get it.
Let's get it. Welcome everybody to episode 2. We are back. Why am I yelling? I'm like I don't know how to do this yet. So like if I'm yelling,
I know.
I don't really know how I sound. And
wait, let me turn myself up. Hold on.
And using this, honestly, I sound like I'm in a fishbowl or something.
That's why I'm telling you. You gotta like get comfy with it.
I gotta get used to to this. So, but yeah, welcome back everybody to
Welcome back,
episode
guys.
2.
Episode 2. Before we talk about anything, we just want to take a minute to talk about launch, because yesterday, like prior to when we're recording this right now, was actually launch day.
Right.
And I just feel so like happy and excited about the way that everybody has received it and just been so like supportive and kind, and yeah, we're just like over the moon about it all. Really excited.
Literally shout out to all my family and my friends. They literally was supporting us.
Yeah, it was really, really nice. That makes me so happy. Yeah, and I just love seeing like the comments and the messages and the DMs, like everything. I love like coming to you and be like, oh my gosh, babe, like read this. It's so sweet.
Yeah, when I woke up, I just saw like a flurry of like messages and comments. I'm like, oh wow, it was great. It was really good support.
Yeah.
And I was so happy, and it just motivates us and motivates me to do more, so super happy.
Definitely, yeah. So we're super excited that you guys are loving. I mean, we've only done one episode.
Exactly. Like we got so much more to go. I mean, we're just getting warmed up. I don't even know. This is like a new platform for both of us, so it's like I'm not even used to how we're doing this. But again, we'll just make it fun, and we're just gonna talk and see how it goes.
I just can't wait to get into the juicy stuff,
Right.
Like that first episode was like kind of chill, just telling our cheesy love story, but from here on we just want to get into like the more deeper topics, the juicier kind of issues to talk about, and like share our personal experiences and perspectives throughout. And we're just super excited, and we're so happy that everyone's just as keen as we are, so we can't wait to keep on doing what we're doing. But before we get into talking about what today's topic will be, I wanted to read a message, if you don't mind.
Right.
Because it was really, really sweet. And it's things like this that makes me happy that we're doing what we do. And I know this is only just the beginning, but it just makes me feel like we're on the right path. So we received a DM on our Instagram, which is at One Day Podcast on Instagram. If you guys want to go and follow us, keep up to date with everything. But we received a DM and it says, just watched your podcast. It was awesome to listen to both of you, and I'm amazed how well you do without seeing each other. I am in a long distance relationship as well. We spent 14 months without seeing each other last year, and then we were lucky enough to see each other for a short while. Now we are apart again. It's definitely difficult to be so far from each other, but I can see how other people manage to be in a long distance relationship as well, and that definitely gives me hope and strength waiting for your next podcast. So it's things like that, like when Alan and I read that, it just makes us feel like, okay, even though we're just, over here chilling, chatting, talking about our experiences and our perspective, it makes me feel really happy to know that by us doing something as simple as that, it's helping other people to feel like they aren't alone in this experience. Because, I think you were saying yesterday, like a lot of the time, when you're going through something that feels difficult and you also feel like you're alone, that can make it feel 10 times worse.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you see that other people are managing to get through it as well, it kind of like gives you a little bit of like a surge, like, okay, well, if they can do it, I can do it too.
Right.
So it just makes me really happy that like when we get messages like that. So I just thought I would share that.
Yeah, you know what? When you read that this morning to me, again, I love all the people that comment on our YouTube channel
Mm.
and give us like, you know, in the DMs and tell us how they can relate to our story. Because I remember in the beginning, I remember we were talking about like this by literally the beginning of our relationship, and we were like, yeah, I wonder how many people go through what we go through. Like, how many people is like 5 hours away, 10 hours away, 16, 23, 25 hours away. And sometimes when you don't know anyone, it's hard to relate to. Like, you know, it's just so hard. And then when we put out the video about the pandemic,
Yes,
and how we cope with it and do date nights and do all that stuff, we got overwhelming comments, and all of them were very supportive, and they're like, oh my god, I'm from Australia and New York too. And I'm like, wow, I didn't even know there's a lot of people that's in an LDR that's going through the same thing we went through, and a lot of people could relate to our story. And you know, that's what does it for me. It's like, wow, there's so many people that we can inspire, or they see what we do and they get inspired by what we do. And I love that. You know, it's so motivating to do more and to give back to everybody, just sharing our story. So it's pretty fun doing this so far, and I love everyone's comments and everyone's support. You know, some of them give us like, yeah, we tried it and it didn't work, and then a lot of them were like, oh, we're still in it. And I remember replying to them and to say, you know what, keep going, stay positive, stay in love, you know, just keep getting to know your partner. Because this is, I always say, you know, tough times don't last, tough people do.
Yeah, you do say that a lot.
You know, that's the advice I give in the comment section, because again, a lot of these things are temporary. I mean, I know we're still in the middle of the pandemic, but it's gonna go away. But we just have to last. And I always tell Leizel, like, let's just stay productive. Let's keep on our goals, and let's just keep on our goals and stick with it. You know, let's not let this whole. I mean, we haven't seen each other for like a year, and we're still here kicking it and doing new things. You know, so it's fun, and I love, and it's inspiring, and it gets me going to do more when I hear those comments, and I read those comments in the comment section and in our DMs and IG. So.
Yeah, it just makes me feel like I love helping people.
Right.
So to know that something as like simple as this, where we can help people feel like they're not alone,
right,
it just makes me really happy. And yeah, I'm really glad that we're able to do this and to do it on, I think, like a more personal and relatable level with the podcast. Yeah.
I remember at one point I used to just tell you, yeah, imagine there's probably like thousands of people that do what we do, which I had no clue, like who's in a like a long distance relationship when we first started. So I used to just say that just to psych myself out, to say, oh, this is normal, everyone's doing it now. I really had no clue until we started doing videos and everyone started, you know, commenting, and I'm like, oh wow, there really is a lot of people that are either in like China, in like in South America. It's insane. There's
like all over
a lot, and they until this day, we did that one video, I still see all the comments come in, and I'm like, wow, there's still a lot of people watching and tuning in and seeing what we did inspired them. Like, oh, we do date nights too, we cook, we do this, we do Netflix party, and it's like, wow, we could really help a lot of people and relate to a lot of people. So I love that about what we can do and our impact. You know, it's not a lot, but like that's the point. We're gonna keep growing and building this.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we should probably get into today's topic of conversation. Today we wanted to talk about the viral. I'm gonna call it this: the viral TikTok dating advice trend kind of thing, because you know how everything just goes crazy viral on TikTok. It could happen like overnight, and then it starts spreading to other social medias like Twitter, Instagram, all that. So I'm going to refer to it as TikTok. But it's a piece of dating advice that I've personally noticed seems to be everywhere at the moment, and it is the phrase of, if he wanted to, he would. But we're going to kind of talk about this today from both perspectives. Like, we're just going to call it like, if they wanted to, they would.
Yeah, I don't personally, I don't have TikTok. or I signed up a long time ago, but I never used it. So I'd always hear, obviously you're on it a lot more than I do. And I remember her sharing this with me, and I was like, you know what, this is a really good topic. It makes sense to like personal and definitely relationships and long distance. So this is like perfect. And I'm gonna let Leizel explain more about it.
Yeah. So just a quick little rundown for people who don't know what I'm like referring to when I say this. But basically on TikTok, I noticed that there were a lot of videos going around where people would be like, how do I say this? They would be showing visuals of like romantic gestures that their partner has done for them, whether it be like a surprise date night, candle at dinner, roses on the bed, Birkin bag, like just those romanticized kind of like fantasies that social media depicts as being, like this is what a healthy romantic relationship should look like.
Right.
And then overlaid onto those visuals would be audios of people being like, if he wanted to, he would, because if he wanted to, he would, if he wanted to, he would, basically just repeating the same thing over and over again. And I think when you view that and you take it in just as a surface level, it kind of would naturally make people think like, okay, so in order to say that my partner cares for me or loves me, they should be doing things like this, like romantic gestures like this.
Right.
In order for me to feel like, okay, yes, he's done that for me, so that means he loves me. So we kind of wanted to talk about that today because I feel like while I do believe in, if somebody wanted to do something, they would just do it. I personally feel like people are taking this phrase and really running with it, running it to the ground, taking it as Bible and being like, you know what? Yeah, if he wanted to, he would. And actually, my man doesn't get me flowers on a random Tuesday afternoon, or he doesn't surprise me with candlelit dinners. So that must mean that he doesn't care about me,
right?
Because he didn't do all that stuff. So yeah, we kind of wanted to sit and just chat about that topic because, like I said, while I feel like it is like, yes, if somebody wanted to do something, they would. There's a different side to it as well.
For sure.
That you need to think about. It's not just like, well, he didn't do it, so we got to throw the whole man away. Like, there's more that comes to it than that. So, yeah, this kind of relates to, like Alan said, relates to relationships, relates to personal, and in terms of relationships, of course, it would naturally relate to like regular or long distance as well.
Right. When you actually told me about this and said, hey, let's do this topic, the first thing came in mind for me was when you used to be like, hey, all these people are like feeling bad that we're in a long distance relationship, or they just like feel pity on us, and they're like, oh, I could never do that, or I could never fly 23 hours to see a partner. I could never do a long distance. I have to be there physically with a partner. And I'm like, well, if you really got to know that person and you really like it, and if you really want to, you would.
That's exactly right. Like if, especially, okay, when it's a distance like ours, I'm not here to compare like, oh, well, that couple's only this far away and we're this far away. But I mean, as in like, when you take into the consideration different countries, different hemispheres, opposite sides of the world, and there's like time differences to come into play, people think like, how do you guys like communicate? How do you even like, when he's going to sleep, you're waking up, and when you're waking up, he's going to sleep. Like, where do you guys even talk? And it's like, if you want to find a way to make something work, you're going to find a way to make it work. And yeah, regardless of the time, the distance in between, whatever obstacle may be in your way, if you want something bad enough, and if you two have decided as a team, as a partnership, that yes, this is what we want to do, we want to make it work, you're going to make it work.
Right.
So I think that's where it definitely relates to long distance, is like, yeah, if your partner wants to put in the effort to make it work, regardless of any circumstances that may be in the way, it can be done. It's really just up to you.
Right, and I agree. I mean, I think I'm going to get into maybe one of the biggest to me, one of the biggest problems with that phrase and how people are taking it on TikTok or, in general, is when people compare.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the biggest like thing about comparison. Like you shouldn't compare how that other person treated that other like how that couple, like how they were romantic on each other, like because you don't, first of all, like you don't know them, you don't know how their relationship is, and then you started having these type of expectation with your partner, and you wish that they bought you a bag or had like a romantic dinner or a trip. People start comparing, they start feeling bad.
Yeah. And that's where the issue in that social media being so easily accessible for us to see each other's lives, even people that we don't personally know.
Right.
And we see like, okay, like Sally over in the US, like her man got her a Birkin, and my man hasn't even got me a bunch of flowers, like because he didn't want to.
Purse.
Right?
Not even a Coach purse. No, I'm just kidding. She got a Birkin. I didn't even get a Coach.
Yeah, so like we tend to get into that comparison kind of routine where we see what things other people are receiving and the way other people are living, and we're like, okay, why can't I have it? Actually, I just want to say this as well. I was on TikTok this morning. Disclaimer, I don't spend as much time on TikTok as
I'm like, wow, she's on TikTok all day.
No, I
That's
swear.
all she does?
Be like, no, I swear. I'd be always saying in my vlogs, like, on TikTok, I learned this on TikTok. I saw this on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok all the time. It just, they're so quick. Like, you flick through it and you're on to the next thing.
Right.
But back to what I was saying. I was on TikTok this morning and I actually saw this girl. She was recording herself crying, talking about like, where do you guys find these boyfriends? Like, where do you, I think she must have been a teenager, babe. Like, she must have been a teen. But she was like, where do you guys find these boyfriends? Like, how do you find guys who are taking you out on romantic dates or surprising you with gifts or buying you flowers? She's like, my boyfriend doesn't even remember like when our anniversary is. And then she started crying and was like, I just want somebody who's going to love and appreciate me, blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the TikTok, she's like, I guess I'm going to have to break up with him. And I was like, I don't know if that was fake. I don't know if that was like a planned thing. No, it seemed legit. For real.
I hope it's fake.
Yeah. So it just goes to show that, yeah, people do tend to get into a comparison mindset where they look at what other people are getting and they start to feel bad. Like, well, how come I'm not receiving that? Or how come I don't get that? And I think this phrase does kind of encourage that even further. Like I said in the very beginning, I'm going to say this multiple times throughout this episode today, but like, yes, I do believe if people want to do something, they would. But you can't just take that as Bible and be like, damn, my man didn't buy me flowers, so bye. Like, throw the whole man away. Like, I'm not... Like, because there's so many different factors to take into it. Like, perhaps he's just not that type of person. Maybe he doesn't... He's never been taught to show love like that. Maybe that's not the way that he thinks is okay to show love. Maybe it's just not something that crosses his mind. And maybe he's showing you love in different ways.
Yeah, there's definitely different ways that he might be showing it and she's not like recognizing it. And she's just like, oh, I didn't get that purse. I'm like, but he drives you around. He feeds you. If you want something, he buys it for you, or he'll surprise you in other ways. Like as simple little gestures that just because somebody else got a Birkin bag, or something expensive, what if he's showing his love other ways, So,
yeah, like with quality time. Maybe he feels as though, I spend my days off with her, like taking her out for like simple dates. Maybe to him, that's him filling your cup and fulfilling your needs.
Right.
But in your mind, because you have this expectation that's been influenced by social media,
right,
to be like, I would love to get flowers on the bed, I would love to get a candlelit dinner, I would love to get a surprise bag,
right,
and then he doesn't do that for you, then that's when you get disappointed. But I think something that we definitely do preach a lot is to have gratitude.
Right.
and to stay in that gratitude mindset. Because when you start paying attention to what other people are doing and what other people are receiving, and you start looking at comparing that to your own life and being like, okay, well, there's a hole here because I don't have that. There's a hole here. I don't get that. Like, you start looking at where things are lacking in your life in terms of your relationship, then that's when you're going to be disappointed. You're going to feel let down. You're going to get into arguments. You're going to, do you know what I mean? So it's like a snowball effect because you're so concerned with what, that other person is getting.
Right. You're looking left and right. You know, I look at this and what I remember is like, if you ever go to like a horse race, right? And you see the horse, there's a reason why they have blinders.
True.
Right? Because they don't want the horse to focus on the left and right and get distracted by all that noise on the side. They're focused on their goal and what they want to do.
Yeah,
and
the horse got to stay in their lane.
Right. So you have to have like that blinder mentality, like a horse race mentality. And a lot of people don't have that. They only like look at who's doing what and who's getting what.
Yes.
You know, and that's the number one thing. If comparing is the thief of joy.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you should stick in your own lane and really focus on what you have and be grateful for what you have, because again, your partner is showing you other ways that they love you.
That's it. Yeah. So like going back to what we were saying earlier is like some people may not necessarily have grown up in an environment where they see that being done and they're like, okay, that's a way to show love. Like some people grow up and they don't see their parents showing affection. Like I'm just using this as examples.
For sure.
But like some people just genuinely, I don't know, like what if that person, girl or boy, has never been in a relationship before and they're not comfortable with whatever you need to fulfill, like what your need is like whether it be physical affection or gifts or whatever. But this is like going more into love this is going more into love languages, which is definitely something that we're going to cover in the future.
For sure.
To just say, like, you can't really have that expectation of being like, well, I would love for my partner to do this for me, and then feeling down and out because he doesn't. It's like, well, did you discuss this with him? Did you talk to him about it? Did you let him know how you're feeling?
So I think you just hit it right there on the head, like the nail on the head, right? A lot of people compare and expectations. A lot of people have a lot of expectations. Like with that is because they don't have the number one thing that everyone says in a relationship, you have to have communication.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the number one thing. You have to have communication. You need to know how to voice what you would like from your partner. And if you don't do that, then you can't expect anything. You know?
Yeah. And I think another thing that I had noticed as well is like under these posts that I was seeing, whether it be on TikTok, on Instagram, Twitter, whatever it may be. Sorry. I was like, goddamn.
Let's leave that in there.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Like I was saying, sorry. A lot of people would be like, how do I send this to my man without sending it to my man? How do I tell my man that this is what I want without telling him what I want? And I think, first of all, I don't know why people would feel uncomfortable to tell their partner like what they want.
Right.
You should be in a relationship where if you feel like your needs aren't being met, or you want something to be done more of, or you want something to stop or change, or whatever it may be, you should be in a relationship where you feel comfortable enough to go to your partner and be able to sit down and talk to them and let them know, like, hey, like, let's have a comfortable discussion talking about this. And I don't mean like a, you don't do this for me, like,
or I have a list of stuff that I want you to buy me, you know, or want you to do for me. You know, so like you said, it's communication. You can't have expectation, and you know, you have to have open communication. You know, you
Yeah.
should be able to be comfortable. You should, first of all, you should know your partner enough so that you guys are actually comfortable to sit down and say, hey, this is what I want, or this is what I'd like,
Yeah.
you know?
And I'm not necessarily mean like, babe, like I'm sorry, but I need you to buy me a Birkin bag because it ain't
Right.
working out if you don't. I don't mean that. I mean as in like simple things like, hey babe, I really would love if we could spend more quality time together. Hey babe, I would love if we could make the effort to have regular date nights. Or
Right.
hey babe, I would love it if you did more of this. Or hey, I would love it if you could maybe help me out more around the house, or stop doing, like, whatever it may be.
Right.
I feel like when you're in a relationship, as a partnership, as a team, there shouldn't be that feeling of, oh, I'm too scared to ask for what I want.
Right.
Because I think that's where like ego and pride start to come in, is like sometimes people may not necessarily feel comfortable with telling their partner what they want because it may make them look too high maintenance or like clingy, or do you know what I mean? But I feel
Right.
like you should be able to go to your partner and have them listen to you in a comfortable setting where you can discuss like what it is that you want. So that's where
Absolutely.
like you were saying, like communication is definitely key, but also comprehension as well. Like it is up to your partner to be able to hear you and listen to you and take it in and be like, okay, this is what they need, this is what they would like. Let me work on that and we'll check in again later.
Yeah, like spoiler alert, right? I'm not a mind reader. You know, so
Exactly,
like
yes.
honestly, to be honest with you, like if it wasn't for you communicating like that with me, I wouldn't not know a lot of stuff. Like I didn't know how to, like I didn't, and you didn't expect me to do these things, but you communicated these things to me like, hey, I would like to do this, or I would like to do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't know that. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if you like that, I put in a lot of effort to do those things that she asked for because we had that open communication.
Yeah.
You know, like half the things that we've experienced, I don't think we would have done if you didn't initiate the conversation.
Yeah,
You know,
because I feel like naturally you're just such like a, it is what it is. Like you're just
that
like
or
such a
easy going.
chill. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are the most chill person ever. Whereas like I'm like, baby, like we're not spending enough time. We're not
Right, like
spending enough quality
little
time
things.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like seriously, like down to like, baby, let's call more, let's FaceTime more. Like there's one point I
Yes.
just got comfortable. Like, okay, we've been on the phone texting and calling. That I'm like, it didn't dawn on me that we haven't like seen each other long
Oh
enough.
my
Like
gosh.
it would be like a
We're going
couple
back to
days,
that.
and I'm like, wait, you're right. She reminds me like, can we FaceTime? I'm like,
I
oh,
know,
holy crap,
yeah.
yeah, you're right. We
Yeah.
haven't seen each other in three
It
days.
really does
Let's go
happen like
see.
that. Yeah,
Right.
because you know, like Alan and I, we spend a lot of time on the phone. We're on the phone like
A
a
lot.
lot, but sometimes it'll be like a few days, and we're like, you know what, we haven't seen each other.
Right.
Like we need to get on FaceTime because we haven't like physically. Well, not
Right.
that we can physically see each other,
Exactly.
but I mean, it's like we haven't been on FaceTime for a minute. Like, what are we doing? And yeah, it's like you get caught up, and sometimes you do just need to check in with your partner and be like, hey, like, we need to just take a minute to refocus because we're getting too comfortable.
Right. So yeah, piggybacking on that, right? I remember. Imagine if you just all of a sudden get mad. Like, why isn't he FaceTiming me?
Yeah.
You know, like if you expected those things, and it's like get mad at me for not FaceTiming you or seeing you, or it's like, why? What's wrong with me? What did I do? How come I didn't
Right.
get any FaceTime? Because you see, like, you know, if you get influenced by social media and you're like seeing all these LDRs and they're always like FaceTiming and spending
Yeah.
time together. And imagine if you assume like, why isn't he doing this? Why isn't he, doing that?
Right. Yeah.
But you're, again, because you initiate, it's like, hey, let's FaceTime because we haven't seen each other in a while. Like it's open communication. It's like, okay, I get it. And for me, again, since I'm not a mind reader, I'm like, you're right. You know, you just have to tap me in the shoulder and say, hey, let's do this. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, for
Yes.
sure. And I'm, like I said, I'm laid back. You tell me, let's do this. I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Because I can't be over here like, thinking to myself like, oh, why hasn't he FaceTimed me?
Right.
But we're on like a phone call all the time. In your mind, you're like, well, I'm spending time with her. Like, we're on the
Exactly.
phone. But I'm over here like, he hasn't FaceTimed me. Like, why? Even though we've like spoken to each other regularly, in your mind you feel like you're filling up that cup that I need to be filled. But in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, he ain't even like. So that's where I couldn't
Right.
sit there and be like mad about it. I have to come to you and be like, hey babe, like, do you
Right.
think we could FaceTime? Because it's been a minute. Like, we haven't seen each other. I can't be over here
Yeah.
all but hurt. Like, he didn't FaceTime me, which means he doesn't care. Because if he wanted to, he would.
Exactly. He
Like,
would.
it just, you can't always use that phrase as Bible because,
Right.
again, you would have felt like you were fulfilling my cup up
Mm-hmm.
in other ways. Whereas I'm over here, like, hurt that you're not FaceTiming me. So that's where, yeah, like you said, open communication definitely goes hand in hand with that phrase
Mm-hmm.
because, well, yes, you can use it. You can say, like, okay, if my partner wanted to do something for me, they would. But before you condemn him for that, him or her, have you spoken to them about it? Have you
Right.
voiced what you would like? Have you discussed what you want more of, what you want less of, what you would like for them to do? And I'm not talking about like the grand romanticized fantasy that social media puts out there, like,
Mm-hmm.
again, candlelit dinners, roses on the bed, because like I love that stuff. I love seeing love. I love the romantic gestures, but real life ain't always like that. It's not always going to be
Mm-hmm.
roses on the bed, candle and dinner. It's like romantic gestures or fulfilling your needs or what someone thinks may be fulfilling your needs in their eyes could be Netflix on the couch on a Tuesday night with a
Mm-hmm.
bag of chips. Like that, I feel like quality time wise is a great thing. But because someone may be too focused on like, well, why didn't he put the candlelit stairway up to the bedroom with the
Right.
flowers on the bed and the like that's great too, but you can't expect that if you haven't told your partner. And
Mm-hmm.
again, you shouldn't be scared if you would like that. And I don't mean like dropping little hints like, oh my god, babe, like, isn't this so cute?
You're showing them like, hey, babe, see this? See these Snickers? Snickers? I
Yeah,
want. You like them,
yeah.
right? It's nice, right?
Like
Oh,
you'd be
okay.
like,
You're dropping hints.
these sneakers are pretty cool, right? What do you think of
What do
these?
you think?
Oh yeah, what do
Oh,
you
they're
think of
cool.
these?
I'm like, oh yeah, now she's gonna get it for me. You
Right,
know,
right.
like,
You can't just put that out there and expect
right.
like, yes, he's got that implant or she or he
Mm-hmm.
has got that implanted in their mind, so now they know what they want. Like
Right.
I've shown them what I want,
I wore an
but
orange shirt. You know,
right,
like I wore this
exactly. Like
to
they're not
remind
gonna,
them.
yeah, they're not gonna
No,
keep that. I mean,
you
some
gotta.
people would. Some
Right.
people are intuitive like that, but I guarantee if I show Alan, like, okay, like let's say we'll use us as an example.
Mm-hmm.
If I showed you one of those gigantic, like 100 stem bouquet of red roses and was like, oh my god, babe, wow, look how pretty this is. And in my mind, I'm like, get it for me, get it for me, get it for me. And then you're like, yeah, babe,
Right.
that's really pretty. You're not gonna sit there and be like, okay, how do I find these roses? What am I gonna get them for?
Right. Right.
Because you're just like, she's just asking me what I think of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, naturally, people aren't always intuitive in that sense of being like, I remember on this day they showed me this, so I should get them that, you know? So we can't
Yeah.
just think that if we're dropping hints and showing
Mm-hmm.
things here and there that our partner is going to automatically know what we want. Sometimes we do need to be blunt with it and be like, hey,
Yep.
I would love for you to do more of this. I would love for you to put in more effort to spend quality time with me. Even
Right.
if you want to have the rose petals on the bed, if you tell your partner, I would love if you set up like a romantic date night, rose petals on the bed. That would be so sweet and nice. You shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
scared to ask for that. And that's not to say that they're going to go out that night or that weekend and be like, okay, how can I set this up? How do I get this together? Like maybe they want to surprise you with it, so they'll use it later on.
Yeah. What I learned from the past is like closed mouths don't get fed. You know, like if you don't tell them what you want, then you're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
And you have effective communication and open communication with your partner to voice that out and be comfortable telling them this is what I'd like. You know, I mean, there's times where, you know, again, one thing I know, again, for personal experience, I know there's weeks that especially in this pandemic, for us, we would like do date nights like a Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get so comfortable and I'm like, you know what? It's already a routine. To me, in my mind, it's already a routine. We're gonna Netflix and Netflix party and cook.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I assumed that. So,
Yeah.
but with Leizel, if you guys don't know, like, you need to know the love language because she needs to know. Like, she wants communication and open communication all the time. Like, she's asking me, "How come you didn't ask me for a date night?" I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, "Hey, I already know we're gonna do that. I don't know why I have to ask." But then
Yeah.
I remember, I'm like, "Oh, she wants someone to tell her, you know, that we're gonna do date night." And it's like, or surprise her and tell her, "Hey, we're gonna have date night on this Saturday. This is what we're gonna
Yeah.
eat, and this is what we're gonna watch. You know, I did my research on whatever shows and movies is gonna be out, and this is the option of food." She likes to be surprised that way, and not because, you know, again, I know my fiance, so she's definitely voiced out what she likes. So, but there's times where I really got comfortable in this pandemic. I'm like, well, we do it every weekend. I
Yeah.
already assumed that we're gonna do it, you know,
Like I'll be over here like, can we do a date night this weekend? And you're like, duh. And I'm like, well,
I'm like, yeah, I thought this was like something that we do every week. And again,
yeah.
you needed to hear that.
Yes,
And
because that's like one of my love languages is words of
right,
affirmation. I always need to hear things to be reassured of them. Whereas you're
right,
like, baby, like I was gonna do that anyway. Like it's already
exactly,
preempted. Like what do you mean? And I'm like, well, I need to hear it.
right. She needs
Yeah.
to hear it. And
Yeah.
again, talking about love language, this really matters a lot, especially on this topic, right? Because if you don't
Yeah.
know your partner's love language, it's going to be hard
Yes.
for you to receive and give them that love that they want. And,
Yes.
you know, for me, again, if no one really knows about love language, I had no clue what it was until I met Leizel. And she put me on game. Like, you know, I didn't know.
Oh yeah.
I honestly didn't. Yeah, I know. I didn't know what mine was. And I don't know how I like to receive my love language.
Yeah.
And she showed me hers. And it made sense. And for the people that don't know what love language is, I mean, I'll have Leizel explain to you guys, you know, what it is, because obviously, you know, I learned it from her.
Yeah, well, I mean, like a quick little rundown is like love languages. I think there's 5 of them, and they
Right.
basically tell the story of how you give, receive, and accept love.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, let's say my love language, I think it's changed now actually, but I think previously it was words of affirmation, and let's say
Mm-hmm.
yours is quality time.
Right.
So you may feel like you're spending quality time with me, you're with me all the time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how you give love to me because that's
Right.
what your love language
What
naturally
mine
is.
is, exactly.
But in my mind, I'm like, well, he hasn't told me how he feels. He didn't tell me that he loved me today, so he don't
Right.
care about me because if he wanted to, he would.
No,
But in his mind, he's filling that cup up by spending quality time with me, and that's where it is very important. We're going to dive more into this in another episode for
for
sure,
sure.
but
Mm-hmm.
it is very important to know what your partner's love language is
For sure.
because, yeah, like in that instance, for example, you may have felt like, well, I spent like all day with you. And I'm like, but you didn't really say anything to me.
Yeah,
Or
I
like,
get it. Mm-hmm.
like it's the imbalance of you feeling like, well, what more do you want? Like I'm spending time with you,
Right.
and I'm like, but you didn't do this, and
At one
that's where,
point, for
yeah,
sure, I thought of that because it's like my love language is quality time and affection. Affection's out the window because we're in long distance,
I
right?
mean,
Exactly. I wish. I'm the type of person, if I'm around you, I'm going to give you a hug. I'm going to hold your hand down the
definitely,
street.
yeah.
I'm always going to, like, you know, be affectionate in the house or outside. It doesn't matter. But my biggest one was for sure quality time.
Yeah.
And since we've been on the phone for like a lot, like we're on the phone a lot. So
Yeah.
like to me, I was like, oh, what are you talking about? I'm giving you the love language, but that's actually mine, not hers.
Yes,
You know?
and sometimes you do have to kind of learn your
Right.
partner's love language and be and take a moment to be like, okay, so how can I make them feel loved? So yeah, that's why the saying of if they wanted to, they would. yes, I'm sure, but do they know your love language? Have you guys
Exactly.
talked about it? Have you discussed? Like,
Right.
that's why there's so many different things that come into play. You can't take that phrase and run Bible with it and be like,
Right.
my partner didn't do any of this romantic stuff for me, so that means they don't love me, because if they wanted to, they would. And then again, the comparison comes into it, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, have you had a look and kind of analyzed and seen like whether they're giving love to you in other ways other
Right.
than what you see on social media as being romantic?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, there's just you definitely need to know your partner and what their love language is, because honestly, again, I didn't know for the longest, and she would always tell me, but I would always fall back to my own love language, and I'm like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
already doing it, you know.
Yeah.
But she like
Mm-hmm.
even one time like you told me, oh, I'd like she her love language is words of affirmation. So like,
Mm-hmm.
don't get it twisted. Trust me, I tell my fiance every day I love her. So
He does, or
every day
constantly.
I
Yeah.
do drive by I love
He
yous
does.
every day, pretty much.
Yeah,
And
you
when she
do.
least
I love
expect it,
that.
you know. But I had to learn, and she had to communicate with me to tell me, hey, I'd like to, it would be nice to get text from you in the morning. Because sometimes
Mm,
I just wake up and I have so much things I need to do in a day, and
mm,
she thinks I don't have her in her mind, in my mind. But in
yeah.
reality, the first thing I think of is her and what I'm gonna do so that I can base my whole day around what I need to do and her.
Oh my
So,
gosh. Yeah.
yeah. So since I don't, she would remind me. I'm like, can you text me more in the morning? I'm like, oh, it's because she needs to know like that I'm there and I'm thinking of her. And I'm like, I am in my mind. I know I'm thinking of her, but she doesn't know that, and she's also not
No.
a mind reader. So,
But you know what that reminds me of?
which what is it?
Talking about like words of affirmation and how that's our
Mm-hmm.
love language. Like in the very beginning of our relationship, like once, but this is before, oh no, maybe even like after we'd met, I'll be over here texting Alan, like texting this man a whole novella talking about like how I feel.
Yeah.
And he would
Oh
respond
man.
respond with like, "Oh, that's sweet. I feel the same." And I'm like, "Oh, I
Wait.
just spent like."
Before we get into that, I wanna preference that. Like, I just want them to know how, like, my fiance, like Lizelle, is a really good storyteller. She writes really well. She speaks really well.
Oh,
In
thank you.
anything like about that, well, what I'm not comfortable in, and even this, I'm not even comfortable doing yet. But she writes really well. She speaks really well. So I would get these long, romantic, nice, like
Damn, you're really out here
texts that's
exposing
like she's
me.
spilling her heart out. No, and it's great because like she thinks I don't read it, and she thinks like, well, he doesn't like to read this much, and I'm like, I'm reading it, and she sends me these novels, and
For
it's so
real.
romantic, and it's like when you read what she writes to me, I'm like, damn, how did she even think of that? Like I need to step up my writing game. But like for some reason, I'm not the same person, obviously. So
Yeah.
I would I would literally text her like one sentence or one
For
word
real.
answer.
This man was like breaking my heart. I'd be texting him like a
Yeah,
whole, like, yeah, just putting it all on the line for
right.
the. And you'd be like, "Oh, that's sweet." Like,
That's sweet. Or
what?
ditto, ditto. Ditto. I feel the same. Ditto.
Right. But again, that's not something that I could be mad at, because while
Exactly.
that's my love language and I'm
Mm-hmm.
out here spilling my heart out, talking about how I feel through words, because again, words of affirmation. I
Right.
love writing about how I feel, I love talking
Mm-hmm.
about how I feel. But then you're just like, cool. I can't be mad at you because that's not the way you show love.
Yeah. I didn't
Yeah.
grow up like sharing how I feel.
Right.
Remember we
Yeah.
talked about that. Like
Yeah.
I never show like no one say, hey, how do you feel today? Or how do you, something happens and like, how do you feel about that? Lizelle literally was like the only person that I ever like experienced like having someone ask me how you feel all the time. And at first I was very uncomfortable because I
Yeah,
didn't know how
you
to
were.
express it. And
Yeah.
then as we go along, it's like, hey, you know what? I know why she's asking me this, and I know why she wants me to just remind her, hey, I'm here. I want to know if you're thinking about me. And yeah, I had no clue until I'm like, oh, okay, your love language is words of affirmation.
Yeah. I also want to just clarify. It wasn't like I was out here like, tell me how you feel every day. How do you feel? Like, how do
Exactly.
you feel about me? I mean,
Yeah.
he means as in like general things that happen in
Mm-hmm.
life. If when we were in our talking stage, if something was going on, if we experienced some type of situation, or if something happened in your day that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like pleasant, instead of me being like, oh damn, that sucks, or okay, that's
Right.
cool, I'd be like, oh, so how do you feel it, like how are you feeling about that, like how do you feel, because I feel like I'm naturally a very empathetic person, and I like to help people get through things. So if something bad happened to you, I'm not
Yeah.
about to be over here like, oh damn. So anyways, like blah, 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 blah. Like I wanted to help you talk through things, and
Right.
you naturally weren't a person who was
Right.
one to talk about your feelings
Mm-hmm.
about anything.
I
So I
didn't,
definitely feel like I helped to bring that out of you, where
for
you
sure.
became more comfortable, and that's definitely like a tone that we set
Mm-hmm.
from the beginning of our relationship,
That and just
where
like you
that
said,
where we're
open communication.
exactly like
So
where we're actually comfortable with being able to go to each other and being like, hey, can we talk about
mm-hmm.
this, or hey, I like this, I like that you do this, or I don't like that you do this, or I would love to do this, I would love to
Mm-hmm.
not do this. Like we set that tone from the very beginning. I
Yeah.
feel like, yeah, obviously it's really benefited us in that
It
sense.
alleviated a lot of headaches after a while because you stop. There's no guessing game. Like I know
Yes.
how she feels,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because of that open communication. I just know how you get to know her more. I got to know her much more. And again, I was never comfortable telling her how I feel until like she would ask me and I get comfortable and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what it means. And now she understands where I'm coming from, my perspective.
Mm.
So it's definitely important to the love language and knowing what your partner,
Yeah.
what's their love language.
I mean, you were never one to tell me how you felt, but you told me you loved me first.
So I did tell you how I felt.
Yeah, but I like going back to. Sorry, I just had to throw that out there because I'd be out here looking like
Hey,
I'm
I am
texting
not
you a whole novella
ashamed.
talking about how I feel, and you're just like, cool, girl.
Wait, you're the one that told me you love me first. Yeah. Well, I at that time, again, it's one of those moments that's it just came out, and I never had that feeling before where I just said it and I
Oh.
meant it. Like I'm like, wow.
Mm,
Sometimes when you think of something, you just keep it in your mind and you're thinking it. But I
yeah.
thought about it and then I said it. So I'm like, oh, okay,
Mm-mm.
I'm comfortable. Like remember when I said it. It was when we were leaving in Bali.
Yeah, we were saying
You know,
goodbye to the airport. I was
you know,
bawling my eyes out.
right. So we had that whole year of getting to know each other without seeing each other, and
Yeah.
we had this amazing trip. And then when we were leaving, I was like, no, this is it. Like I have to like. I didn't say this is it. I need to tell her.
Yeah, like this
When
is it.
I was
See you
hugging
never.
her, yeah, like I was hugging her, and then we were leaving. You were leaving to go to your gate, and you were crying, and I'm like, no, I know that this is gonna be something, and I love you. So like it just came out, and
Yeah.
I was happy it came out because
And I
I
was
never
like, oh
said
my
it
god,
as
damn, why
natural as
did you
that.
say it now? Why did you
Exactly, you
tell
were
me this
leaving.
now?
Right.
Yeah, but just kind of circling back to the whole topic of this
Mm-hmm.
episode today, the phrase "if they wanted to, they would." So what's your final verdict of it? Do you believe that's true in your perspective?
To me, it makes sense to me where you say if they wanted to, they would, if it's communicated.
Yes, like I feel like I've said this so many times already, but yeah, if somebody wanted to do something, they would, whether it be in a relationship, for themselves, for work, if you want to earn more money.
Right.
You can't sit there and complain about like, oh, I wish I could eat healthier, I wish I could wake up earlier, I
Mm-hmm.
wish I could quit smoking or
Or make more
something.
money or anything
Yeah,
like that.
but then you're
Yeah.
not doing anything about it, because if you
Mm-hmm.
really wanted to, you would.
You would. Yeah.
And I think it can directly translate to relationships as well,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't take it and run with it and be like, yeah, they didn't do anything for me, because you're too focused on what they haven't done than what they have done.
Right.
But if you take the time to communicate and sit down with your partner comfortably. I don't mean like arguing and be like, you don't do this for me. You ain't even done that. But I mean like just to have an open discussion about like, hey, I love that you do this, but I would love for you to do this too. That's where after you've had that discussion with each other, and if you've agreed as a partnership, as a team, because I will always vouch for this, being in a relationship is teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
It is a team effort. So if you feel like your partner is slacking or getting comfortable or even doing great, like it's important to commend the good, but also help them improve the bad. Does that make sense?
Right.
So if you feel like, oh, for example, if I was like, baby, you're not FaceTiming me enough, I can't be over here and straight away get angry at you because I haven't given you time to improve that. I have to come to you with my issue, and then we talk about it. We come up with a solution, whether that be like, okay, babe, yeah, I agree. I haven't been FaceTiming you enough.
Mm-hmm.
How about we put in more effort to FaceTime at least once a day for 10 minutes?
Yep.
10 minutes ain't enough, but I mean, like, for like quality time in the day. And then we're like, okay, then they will go on and you will see whether their actions match their words. Because if they have said to you, yes, okay, I agree, I would love to do more of that, or I will stop doing that. But if nothing changes, then they don't have integrity to match what they've said. And then that's when you can throw the whole man away. No, I'm just kidding. That's when
you call them out at least. You know?
Well, that's when it's like you've addressed the issue, and you've discussed what you would like the solution to be. And if they've agreed, yes, we're going to work on that. But if they don't, then that's when you need to talk to them again, reevaluate, and be like, hey, what's going on? Like you said, it's not an instant point of, well, they didn't do it, so that's it then.
That's it.
It's constant, like it's a constant cycle of having to work on it till the wheels fall off, I guess. Like until you get to that point where you're like, you know what, this isn't working. They keep saying that they're going to do more of this or do less of that or whatever, but they're not doing it. Then that's when you probably would need to take the time to really reevaluate the relationship and be like, am I truly happy in this? But yeah, I don't think taking that phrase and being like, if they wanted to, they would. Right. I don't think that should be the be-all, end-all of it.
Right, because like you said, talk is cheap. I'm a firm believer of that. You know, like when people only show you like what they want to do, right?
Yeah. Well, people don't tell you what they want; they show you.
They show you exactly, and when you ask your partner numerous times, hey, I would like to do that, and they don't do any action, and they say, yes, I'm going to do it, and they don't do it, they just don't have that integrity, like you said, you know?
Yeah.
So they're not really showing you. They're just telling you yes at the moment to just butter you up or just agree with you at the moment to get off their back. But, like, do they really, their intentions, do they really want to do it? You know, and are they going to put the actions behind it?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So definitely at the end of the day, it's like the age-old saying, communication is key.
That's the key to success.
Yeah.
Relationship success. Khaled.
Yeah. The keys.
That's one of the keys. Yeah, it's really just boils down to communication. Like, it's so funny because, like, you hear it, like, I heard it growing up. And I heard it like in movies, like, oh, you need communication. I just thought it's a lot of BS, to be honest with you. Until you're in it, you're like, holy crap, yeah, you really need to communicate a lot.
Yeah. Like you hear it all the time and you're like, yeah, we communicate.
Right.
But there is a lot of depth to it.
A lot.
Like, yeah, there's so much more to it, which I'm sure that's going to be an episode coming up into the future.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's tons of examples that is like either miscommunication on my part, majority my part, but there's a lot. There's just a lot of experiences that I've learned and grown in this relationship that we would love to share. So I'd say, like, don't take that phrase and really don't run with it.
Communication and comprehension, because it takes you guys talking to each other, but also having understanding with one another for like what it is that you want or don't want. So yeah, those two definitely go hand in hand. And at the end of the day, that's really what makes like any partnership or teamwork is, again, communication. So
you could definitely, like earlier, like you said, take your time to get to know each other and your partner's love language. Just another suggestion: communication and getting to know your partner's love language, because trust me, my personal experience is gonna save a lot of relationships and headaches if you know what your partner wants and it's properly communicated. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. It's just boiled down to communication. Don't make any assumptions. Don't compare.
Yeah.
Don't have any expectations, and learn.
Stay grateful too.
Yeah, grateful, and learn your partner's love language.
Yeah, definitely. And don't throw the whole man away just because he didn't do something.
Right. He didn't do
because if he wanted to,
day.
he would. You gotta talk to your partner about it, and yeah, whether it be male, female, whatever, could be whatever situation. But yeah, like Alan said, it definitely boils down to communication. So I think we're gonna wrap things up today. Again, I feel like we talk for ages, love.
Yeah,
like,
it's weird. It
seems
very short. It seemed like we talked for 10 minutes about this topic.
Right?
And it just really goes by so quick. But yeah, I mean, again, this is new for me, and I'm talking to my beautiful fiance, and it's easy. Aww. So I'm going to get used to this. So it's fun. And we would love to hear from you guys, what you guys think about this topic. Whether, you can DM us or
leave us a comment on YouTube.
Yeah.
Send us a DM on Instagram at One Day Podcast, or follow us, comment, subscribe, follow, all of that.
Like and subscribe. I'd always like to say that on YouTube.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, so with that being said, guys, thank you for spending a part of your day with us. And we will see you guys next time for another episode of the One Day Podcast.
And we're out.
We out.
I can't drop the mic.